In this video, we'll talk about hooks. We'll describe what hooks are, how they work, and when to use them. We'll then compare and contrast them with steering docks. When we finish, you'll have an understanding of hooks, and we'll have created a couple of hooks that will improve how the agent interacts with the project. A hook is a rule that the agent runs on its own in the background. The pattern for a hook is, when X happens, do Y. You'll set it up once, and it runs every time its trigger fires. Every hook is basically comprised of three things: a trigger, when does it fire, a condition, does this case apply, and an action, what to do. One thing to know up front, hooks fire at different moments in the workflow. Some fire before the agent runs a command, some fire after a response completes, some fire when a file changes, or when a session starts. You'll see this in action as we build our examples. The first hook we'll build is a safety net. The second one automates memory capture. As the agent gets more capable, it can do things you didn't fully intend. It might delete files, or drop tables, or modify system settings. The guardrail hook pauses the agent before destructive operations and asks for confirmation. I'll type create a hook that checks if an action deletes files, drops database tables, or modifies system settings. If this is true, I must be asked to confirm. Otherwise, proceed without comment. Now we have a hook. Let's see where it lives. In the Kiro navigation strip on the far left of the screen, click on the Kiro Ghost. In this panel, we can see agent hooks, which is where the guardrail we just created exists. From this panel, you can also create more hooks, delete hooks, or edit existing hooks. Alternatively, you can just ask the agent to tell you about your existing hooks or make adjustments. Let's test it. I'll ask the agent to do something destructive. Delete the oldest session log in this project. There it is. The hook intercepted the command before it ran and asked me to confirm. I'll say, no, I don't actually want to delete anything. The point is that the agent can't execute destructive commands without my approval. This is a hook that fires before an action, which is what lets it intervene. We'll come back to that idea after we build the second hook. One thing to notice about how this hook works: it did not refuse to do the deletion. It paused, asked, and would have proceeded if I said yes. That's the right mode for a guardrail. Hooks warn and ask. They don't block. You're still in charge. The hook just makes sure you're paying attention at the right moment. Earlier, we set up protocols for let's wrap up and checkpoint. Those phrases cue the agent to record lessons learned to steering documentation and write the session logs. These phrases mostly work, but have a shortcoming. In a long session with many prompts, the agent may not remember all the relevant lessons. A memory capture hook addresses this shortcoming. After every response, it evaluates. Did anything notable happen here? An error, a workaround, a corrected assumption? Most of the time, the answer is no, and nothing happens. When it hits something, it writes a dated entry to steering documentation. I'll type, create a hook that fires after every response. If you encountered an unexpected error, discovered a workaround, corrected a previous assumption, or found something worth remembering, append a dated entry to steering documentation. If the interaction was routine, do nothing. Note that we now have an auto-learn capture hook. We could review and adjust the instructions if desired. Let's see it in action. I'll ask the agent a routine question. What version of Python do I have? The agent answered, and the memory hook evaluated that response. Nothing worth recording. No error, no workaround, no correction, so it did nothing. Most firings should do nothing. That's the expected behavior most of the time. And it's actually a feature. The memory hook fires on every response, and the guardrail fires every time the agent tries to run a command. And most of those firings do nothing. You've now seen two kinds of hooks. The guardrail fires before the agent runs a command. That's what lets it stop an action. The memory hook fires after the agent responds. It can only observe what happened, not change it. Pre-execution hooks can intervene, Post-execution hooks can only react. Pick your trigger based on which one you need. Now let's place hooks alongside steering docks. Both give the agent persistent behavior, but they work very differently. When the agent sees it, a steering dock is in context every turn. The agent is reading it constantly. A hook is dormant until its trigger fires. Can prevent an action. A steering dock that says be careful with destructive commands is advice the agent considers while making decisions. By the time the agent has chosen to run a destructive command, that advice has already failed. A pre-execution hook will intercept before the command runs. Steering docks are advisory. Under a long context or a complex task, the agent's attention can drift and steering instructions can get crowded out. Hooks fire on triggers regardless of what the agent is thinking about. Steering docks are for who you are and how you work, your identity, your preferences, your standing rules. Hooks are for moments, the moment before a destructive command, the moment after a response, the moment a file changes. The two hooks we built sit at different points on the worth it spectrum. The guardrail is non-negotiable in my book. The cost is small, a fast check before each command. The downside of skipping it is potentially catastrophic. And critically, there's no steering dock alternative that does the same job, because steering can't intercept before execution. The memory capture hook is a real judgment call. It fires on every response, which costs time and money on every turn. If that bothers you, there's a lighter alternative. Put the same rule in a steering dock instead. At the end of each response, if you encounter an error, workaround, or correction, append a dated entry to memory.md. This requires no separate invocation and no extra cost. But you're back to the steering dock's weakness, where the evaluation competes for attention with whatever you're actually building. The most thorough setup to record memory is what we're going with here. Hook for in-the-moment capture during the session, plus the wrap-up discipline we set up previously. The hook catches things you might not think to flag. Errors, workarounds, corrections. The wrap-up catches the big picture. What you accomplished, what's next, and any updates to your steering documentation and your session logs. Pick what fits how you work. If a memory hook is driving your cost up or takes too much time to fire, fall back to steering documentation for the soft cases. But keep the guardrail hook. Don't let destructive commands fire without your approval.